Hello, listeners. This is Chris, and I am joined by Matt and Albie. And today we are very thrilled to be welcoming back Georgina Reilly, Janis herself. Georgina, welcome back to the Quantum Leap podcast.
And my bangs. The bangs are back. I know there's been something about that. Well, welcome to those.
The bangs are back. So you are the same Georgina Reilly who's been in every episode of the season. You weren't swapped out. Conspiracy theories abound that your evil twin jumped in.
But most of the time, no offense, but most of the time, if I change my hair, my husband doesn't notice. So I'm fascinated by this, that people are like, it's a different, bangs are just tricky. And when you don't shoot, I shoot so spread out that, this is such a silly thing to be talking about, but it just becomes an issue because if you have one person who does them and then the other person doesn't do them, it just becomes, and I'm very particular about how they're cut. So,
this is like coming in media res, right? So Matt, do you maybe want to explain why we're talking about Georgina's bangs?
This is the conspiracy theory that which was the episode that ended with you saying it's Ziggy. It's the one before Friendly Skies, right? Ben Song for the Defense or Ben Interrupted? Yes. Ben Interrupted, I think. There was a conspiracy theory online that there was a different Georgina Reilly for Ben Interrupted because of the hairstyle continuity, which I buy. For a series this complex, I buy that.
I have very specific teeth. My teeth, you'd have to get a whole mold. Like, it would be pretty, I don't know how they would do that, but hey, at least I'm versatile as an actor, I guess. It means, suddenly I just look completely different. So great.
I think people were saying it was the makeup too. Did you have a different makeup person for that episode than previous episodes?
So amazing. I can't believe the attention to detail. I think I did partway through an episode, but also you have to think with, I know these shows, it's like everything kind of looks the same, but if you're under house arrest, I don't know if she's getting her bangs cut. Like, just like, unless I'm having my mom do them, I guess, or having someone come to the house.
That's what I was thinking.
Beth is doing it, amateur. Yeah.
That's the bangs. No, yeah, it's, it doesn't. Anyway, I was like, wouldn't I be? But maybe I was being too. I understand now. This makes a whole lot of sense of why continuity in certain things is required.
And that ties in the universe. Yeah, because Beth, I believe the first time we met Beth, she was rocking.
Thanks for joining us. It's been great talking. See you all next time on the podcast.
You're in a question. We were being silly. What's happening?
Oh, no, I was just saying this fits in universe now, too, because the first time we met Beth, she was rocking some serious bangs. So she was probably doing Janis's hair while they were under house arrest. And, it was nostalgia time.
Yeah, we were having a great time. Great time together.
So she had to keep you away from the tea. But
I know. She got over it. I actually love that moment in that episode where when her and Magic are at the door. And my character's a bit like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Or the Susan Deal's like, what have you done now?
Yes.
Did Susan come back for that latest door answer, or was that filmed when she filmed previous episodes?
No, she came back. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, these scripts come in pretty right before shooting a lot. So no, she was, a lot of these things happen fast. The speed is wild.
So I guess the last time we spoke to you, we had just seen the episode where Jen finds you in Belize. Am I right about that, Matt?
Right before.
Yeah, I think so, because we'd seen the screener, so we hadn't seen. Oh, maybe it was the one before that, because we hadn't seen her being brought back to Project HQ,
right? So
which is at the end of the Belize episode. So yes, because I remember we were saying, we hope you get to engage with the project team soon. Yeah, and of course, the very next episode, there you were being led in handcuffs.
I know. Yeah, that was when you interviewed me, and I was like, well, if we just talked like next week. Yes, that was where I was. I was in Belize and then pulled out. I do wonder what happened to my imaging chamber there.
I think that's going to be an Easter egg for season 2, right?
Plotline for season 2. Somebody else discovers the imaging chamber. You just get random people turning up in the middle of the leaps. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true because Yeah, and there's a version of Ziggy still sitting around in that basement as well. So, oh my God, I said Ziggy and my Alexa just went on because I named it Ziggy. It's going on and off like crazy now. Anyway, so yeah, I guess that'd be a good place to start. How was it to finally get onto the standing set and to work with the ensemble cast and to be able to interact with somebody besides, Magic and Jen at the door? I want to know all about that,
Yeah, it was really fun, especially the relationship with Caitlin, with Addison, because there's so much underlying that, which I think is really interesting because it's like my fiance was hanging out with this chick for like how long? Like, you know what I mean? And and they had all this thing in common that I had no idea about, and they understood each other so much more than I understood him. Like all the information I have, which, with this show is obviously kept kind of under wraps because there's so much to get through and story and everything. But I always found that relationship really interesting to me. And in the scenes with Caitlin, I would have to, as an actor, I like to have my little secrets, like things that I'm deciding to have, whether they're played in the scene or whether the audience ever knows about them. It just makes it more interesting for me. And I think that, I don't know, there was like a bond between Raymond's character and mine for this, the secret time. And then she meets Caitlin finally, which is, Addison, sorry, I keep using everybody's names, to finally meet the person that we're trying to save. And I obviously have my own agenda within this. I'm not there just for that purpose, in my opinion. So yeah, it was really fun, and it creates, I think it's more interesting for shows to have some sort of antagonist to there, because they have such a like bubble and they're all like love each other, that I think it's good to have somebody come in and just sort of, shake it up a little bit, but maybe they actually aren't a bad person. They just have a different viewpoint on how things should be done.
And how much did you know about that at the start of the season? How much were you able to start preparing for that in the early episodes? I know you said the scripts come in as you're filming, but in terms of that through line?
No, not much, to be honest. Like I kind of, there were a lot of pieces. The writers were really amazing when I was on set, and I would talk to Drew Lindo a lot about, because he wrote a few of my episodes and some of my favorite stuff. I would ask him a lot of questions about like, well, what does Janis know and what does Janis not know? And what are you thinking the plan is? Because it would change my performance here for a later thing. And I really tried to think with what I could plot. I mean, the good thing about acting is that you can edit something to work. So even if there was something later, you can make it work. So it's not going to ruin it. But as an actor, it is nice to know, because it gives you more things to play with, especially when I am a big part of delivering the information about Ziggy and the way that Quantum Leap works and the science behind everything. So, I don't know. It's nice to also have those, like an actual personality and a viewpoint on the people in the situation as well. But I didn't get a lot. So I kind of just, that's what's fun. I just make up my own stuff and show up, and it gets changed or it doesn't, or, just details.
I just want to jump in, since you mentioned that, and ask about one of the things that you started doing more of in the second half of the season was some of the technical and time travel mechanics exposition. How was that? Was that interesting? To have to deliver some of those, just to have to deliver some of those technical info dumps, which have to happen in a show like this.
I think, I played a doctor on a show for 5 years. So I actually enjoy jargon, because I think there's something fun about, I don't know, I get my dictionary out and I look up the stuff as best I can and understand how it works, or I'll make drawings of like the stuff, because otherwise I can't remember. How am I going to, a person who is a scientist or is a doctor understands things like in the, that they work within the tools. So if you're just trying to remember words and you don't have an actual thing to associate with, like if you're doing a surgery, you know exactly what you would do physically. Do you know what I mean? So if you're talking about something, I actually really enjoy it. I think it's a fun challenge to deliver those things in a way that can be interesting enough for the audience, but also clear enough for the audience, but also as a real person. It's a fun challenge. Sometimes you're like, obviously the emotional scenes and all that kind of stuff is fun, but I think it's just a part of the job. And it was cool because I had so many questions from it. Cause I'd be like, well, wait, if this works this way, then how does that work? So that's kind of fun. I'm sure, but don't ask me. Cause I mean, I just press a button.
We spend a good deal of every podcast asking, well, if this works this way, how does this work this way? And what do we know about Quantum Leap? And I think one of the best episodes that they gave you since we spoke last was Leap, Die, Repeat, because you got to explain the entire thing. And it struck me in that episode that Janis just walks in like she owns the project because she seemed to be instrumental in everything going right up to the point where Magic said, you can't be part of this. And it's odd because it seems like she knows more about the project than most people in the control room do, but you sell it so well. So is that part of like you were talking before about, I come in with some secrets about what I know, but they don't know. And it's not even in the script, but I mean, could you point to maybe an example of that helped you sort of round out the character and give you that gravitas once you were there on set?
I'm just smart. No, I'm not. Wow. Well, thank you. I guess, I think she's written really fun in that I think she just has the writing is just very confident and certain. It's like, it's this, it's this, it's this. So it's one in the words because she's never like confused particularly. And even if there's a moment of like, okay, that's happening, she can figure out, well, if that happens, then this happens. And I just think she's been doing it way longer. Like, I just think it's been a childhood thing. And I think it's kind of like my 10,000 hours were clocked in ages ago, whereas these guys, I mean, I don't have all their backstories and I don't know, but the team has been working on it for however many years. Do you know how many years? I don't know how many years.
5 years.
At least 5. Yeah,
at least 5. Yeah. And they still said they were like years away from Ben leaping or Addison leaping originally, I guess. So they were they probably
got debriefed 5 years ago on it. And they probably but they didn't know about it until that point, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, we saw in the finale that they were all together at the project, which was built in 1998 and Ben leapt in 2022. I'm sorry, 2018. I'm back on Sam's sign line. I'm sorry.
It feels like 98 was 5 years ago sometimes.
I was like, what, 1998, right? Yeah, but what I mean is like, I just think Janis has known about this just for so much longer. And I think that, and has grown up around, that's just normal. It's kind of like if you grew up with actors as parents. Do you know what I mean? You're going to understand all those things, just even if you're not even going to do it, you just have this, it's just a part of who you are. And so I think that's one, it's in the writing, it's in her. And I guess for me, I decided that I was like, hey, Janis has a purpose in being here. It's not just, you're calling on me and I got to come in and do the thing. It's like, I think she has an ulterior motive. So for me, it's like getting in there and handling this. I'm like, if Ben has to die for this or whatever has to happen for this, I think she's just sort of, I hadn't made a full decision about what I thought her full game plan was, but I knew that it was not 100% aligned with just what Ben wanted. That there was more to Janis's plan than just like, I'm here to help Ben. Because I think she's just a bigger picture person than that.
And that's just all headcanon for you to give the character a little bit more depth as you're playing them.
Yeah, I just think, it's hard being a guest star. When you come in, you don't have a through line a lot of the time. There's some things that are missing about your character. That's just the way it goes with guest stars or recurrings, and especially when you have a large ensemble. So you need to come in, one, to make it fun for you, because I never want to show up and just be like, I'm here to do the lines and I'll put on the to me, that's just one, not fun for me, and also not in my opinion, like professional. So even if it's not going to be shown fully, I think when you have the details for yourself, other people like you picked up on those things. Do you know what I mean? Even though they're not necessarily in the right, you're not saying Janis is A, B, and C, but it's like you have to make decisions when you create a character, regardless of how many lines you have. Because some people be like, well, they just didn't really give me, like I talk to actors all the time about scripts or auditions. And it's like, well, there's just not much there. And, it's like, but you got to put something there. It's like, that's kind of the job. Someone wrote the script and then you're like, rather than just give them back exactly what they wrote, you have to put in something, whether it's right or wrong, it's your art. So you're just like, here's my interpretation and whether that leads which way in the storyline. And sometimes if you're good at it, it can give you longevity as a character. If you decide, I remember doing a show and I was like, I was only coming in for 2 episodes and I was like, I think that she has a crush on this guy. And if I don't, I'm going to play it that way because that's going to set up a storyline. And I think that's going to be more interesting and it's going to be better for me because then it will give me a storyline. And you have to have a future, not just in life, but in your characters that they're trying to go somewhere and then you find it. So that's kind of, I guess that's what I think of. I don't think about it in that much detail. You just asked me about it. So I think it's just an automatic thing that I'm like, okay, where could this go? That would be interesting.
And in that show, did that give you a storyline? Did you come back?
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it was already there, but no one had told me. And I just thought, there were glimmers of it, but I just went really committed to that. I didn't, because if you also come in, like, if you think about it in life, things aren't interesting if they're maybes. You know what I mean? It's like, it's a yes or like, go for the yes or the no will make you commit more to something, even in like, not just acting, like in life, you're like, no, I'm just going to do this and I'm going to do it full. And then if it's wrong, well, I'll change my plan, but I don't want to sort of kinda. Yeah.
Well, with that in mind, the evolution that we saw of Janis once she came into the project proper, she comes in handcuffs. And, you're being interrogated by the staff to the point where you're almost like a frenemy at the end. So you started out like basically trying to keep them in a holding pattern and keeping them guessing to increasingly cooperating. So did you see Janis's bigger picture in that? Or, I'm just curious to know, like, how did you evolve playing the character, knowing that she was going to become more and more integrated? Do you still see her as maybe more sympathetic to them, or is she still just playing her own game? It's just so interesting to me because the character is such a wild card, but you're also one of the only characters that has a legacy with the original project. So there's a sense of ownership there. And I think maybe that's what I was getting across. The sense that you have in the control room is like you belong there. So yeah. So I'm just curious to know, like, how you parse that and how you threaded that needle.
Well, I think Janis knows that she's smarter. That's one thing. I just think that she might not actually be. I think it could be her weakness, actually, is that she thinks she's way ahead of them and she thinks she's way smarter. And maybe that's not, because there has to be a weakness in there to that ownership. And because that's also her Achilles heel. Like you see the scene with Ian where where they say you this was your legacy, in that scene at the computer. And I go, yeah, but I didn't want to play it off as like I wanted to be on it. Like, yeah, that is her weakness, this whole thing. It's her weakness and her strength. It's both. And I think that when she gets caught, we always had a question. I was like, did she want to get caught? Did she know she was going to get caught? Or was it, I got caught, so now I'm having to and I don't know if she wanted to get caught. I think she wanted to have the imaging chamber and she wanted to just bypass the whole thing and just handle Ben from her end. I think she'd rather not deal with other people, but that didn't happen. So then when she came in, she had to rework, okay, I'm here. And there are genuine concerns, like in that, I love the interrogation episode because it builds. Like the first scene, sort of like, whatever, magic. Like I don't, because I'm still working it out in my head of like, I don't know what I'm going to do here. Then Jen comes in, and I play her a different way. Each one has a different tone to it in that, even though it's the same kind of scene. They're different people, and I try to be like, okay, what can I get out of Jen here? She admires me because I'm really smart. I know that's her thing. She's like, damn it. She's like a little bit better than me. So I played like, no, I think you're great too. I think you're smart. Like she gives her that. Like that was a good sting. I would have done the same thing to soften her up because it's like, oh, this person, we are equal, But then she gets me on this guy, on this name where I know about that. I don't know about that. I know it's coming, but I don't know what I need to know in the timeline. and then I have to then I actually do show. So I think that I don't think Janis is like a full villain, because that's just not real. I think it's her weakness is the program, and so if something goes, and her weakness is her certainty, and she holds them too tight that when something goes wrong, then her weakness shows. If that makes sense. So then by the time Addison gets in, I'm genuine in that scene. I'm like, I didn't want to meet you under these circumstances, but this is what you have to do. This is serious now. Like the scenes before are still like, the Janis messing around, kind of being like, I got to figure out what I'm doing here. But then once Addison comes in, it's like, no, you actually need to stop it. You have to stop talking, because your plan's going to go wrong, and my plan. I don't care about your plan as much, but I care about it enough if it's going to support my plan. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Yeah. I don't know if that answered your question, but.
Sure.
When you received the script for Judgment Day, did it differ from your thoughts on the way your character's arc would go over season 1?
I'm not sure. I didn't know. Not completely. I mean, I'm trying to think. Where's the scene where we have the argument? Is that in the one before?
Which argument?
Which argument?
When I'm like, well, he's coming. When I'm like, don't go in there.
That's the one before.
Friendly Skies.
Friendly Skies.
That's the one before. And then this one, I'm there for. I'm already there this whole time for this one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, I kind of, me as Georgina is always like, I get there's the business side of this job, and then there's the creative side. And I think you kind of balance, like, they have a whole show and a whole universe to create, and I'm there to contribute to it. And so when I get a script, I obviously think like, oh, you could do this and this and this. But I also can see why we're doing this. Do you know what I mean? Like it's a collaborative job in that way. And I think I have so many ideas for Janis and what she could do, or of course, because you think in that way when you're creating your character, like I said earlier, where they're going. But then you also have the side of like, what a show needs and requires from its characters to push forward the overall story and where they're going. So no, I have no, do you know what I mean? So it's a balance, because otherwise you can get too, I don't know, especially in TV when things change so quickly and writing changes, then you can get like, oh no, they're doing this. And then, so you have to sort of be flexible and kind of go with like, okay, this is what they're doing. So how does that work for me? But I've definitely said things like, I don't think Janis would be like that. And then we'll have a discussion about, well, this is why. And I'm like, okay. And I can that's the job,
Mm-hmm. Well, being cognizant of all of those variables and the bigger picture, despite all that, did you have an idea of where you wanted Janis to wind up by the end of the first season? And how did that align with where we actually found her?
Well, I always thought it'd be, there was an idea I had that I thought would have been really, I always wanted, everybody wants to be the hologram. I mean, that's just a really fun job, and you get to be a part of the leap and be in that world and be helping Ben. That's like just such a fun thing. And I think that's also like her legacy that, that's what her dad did. So that would be very cool. I think for Janis, I don't know. I loved working with Caitlin a lot. And I always wanted to have more I wanted to go head to head with Caitlin more. I think those would have been really interesting scenes to discuss what Ben and I, it was always very at work. We're at work. So we never really it was all being said under fast dialogue, and we're trying to handle the situation, and Ben's in there. But I always thought it'd be so fun for I don't know. I thought it'd be really fun if Addison and Janis went out for drinks one time and they just got drunk and they just hashed it out, and it was just this whole thing. And I think they became like these frenemies, like they're friends, but they they admire and respect one another. And Caitlin and I would joke about obviously Caitlin could probably take me in a fight. Let's be real. But the mental fight, Janis would win. Like, it was fun. Like that. I always look for the conflict because that keeps things going, and it's a fun game, you know, in acting to play. So that's kind of what I would have. That would have been really fun. And because I always was like, I don't know. And you guys, I mean, you can tell me what you think is like. I know that Janis kind of would end up being in the team, but then I was also like, would she end up being in the team? Do you know what I mean?
I think so.
Yeah. I personally thought that that's where it was going to head inevitably because she's too valuable and she knows too much.
Well, I don't know where Janis goes after this point. Like, I mean,
Wink.
there's so much.
I mean, it's the elephant in the room.
What the fans
Maybe
really
cut
want to
that
know.
part if I don't want to get in trouble. Yeah, I don't know. You know, I mean, what do you guys think?
I'm going to differ slightly from Albie and Chris because I assumed right from the start that because you were a recurring guest and because your character was so tied to the mystery box that, like it or not, there would be an end at the end of the season, whether through death or something else, she was going to be written out. I was very pleased to see that Janis is still kicking around the project at the end of 118. So I'm definitely hoping for more Janis next year.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see.
Although
your poker face.
Well, they established, I don't know what they, you know, with the magic and the Beth thing, like hints of, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I don't know.
I think it's safe to say Janis's relationship with magic, there's always opportunity for you to return. In my mind.
Yeah, I think it's just figuring out in what way that's interesting and changes it. Because obviously, you know, this season has been about why Ben left and you know, bringing him home and things like that. And I just wonder what Janis's, you know, long game intention is with the whole thing. That's why I thought it'd be interesting. You know, I've always thought like I said, there has to be conflict. It can't just be like, well, now she's just fine with everything, because that just doesn't, you know, everybody's fine with everything and they already have a family unit. And I just don't know if that contributes to that. Do you know what I mean? Like having another person who's like, I'm cool with everything. I think it would have to be something that's just shifted more another way in some way. How that is. I mean, I'm not privy to how the whole world is going to shift or what's going to be happening and things like that. So it's such an interesting conversation where you think characters are going to end up. Yeah. For me personally, I think number one, I hope that she will be there for season 2. And if you do get sort of a regular presence or a semi-regular presence back at the project, the longer game that I would love to see is that, okay, these are these people, but you're all about Sam. You're all about Al's legacy and finishing Al's job. So I think that would be a great way. If you guys are listening in the writer's room, I don't know that this will make it to you, but hey, that'd be an awesome storyline for all of us, I believe. Oh yeah. I mean, if Sam could come back for like even just a part of the season of some time, that would be amazing. And I definitely think would be a Janis. It's just, you know what I mean? What that means is more to Janis's character than really, I mean, Magic's too, but the most is obviously, you know, to finish what my dad was trying to start or couldn't finish, or, you know, all those things. I think that would be really cool. And that would be a way, like for me, that would be when Janis is done with you know, like then she'd be like, I'm done. I'm going to go do something else now, in my opinion, because it would be like, that was the game. That was the game. It wasn't to necessarily be my dad and be the hologram and do the thing. It was like, just finish that. And then I think she'd be content to go off and live in Belize.
The other idea I had was not siblings, but the Daughters spinoff where you and Sammy Joe just hit the road Thelma and Louise style and start solving mysteries, or
Yeah. That would be really fun too. Or like, that was why I was like I just think that relationship is just got a lot under it, and maybe she was in love with Ben. Do you know what I mean?
Ooh.
Like, I mean, you have this person who understands the importance of something with you, and to me, like, you admire them so much and you respect them so much, like that creates a bond, you know what I mean? And it's secret. Like, come on. It's like TV drama gold. But it just depends on what show like. To me, that was always, I was like, oh, did she like Ben? Like, does she care if Ben dies? How does she feel about this?
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see some of that maybe flashback or whatever, because we only ever got to see Ben and Janis sort of working in secret, like in a couple of flashback scenes. Yeah. So I guess we can fill in the blanks because we now know how it all fits together, thanks to the finale. But still, it would be so interesting to see some flashbacks to how he approached you and how that relationship evolved and what was going on.
I love it. I love talking about characters and arcs and details, and I think it's fun. And I appreciate how much attention to detail, like I've said before, that you all have. And thanks to everybody for the bangs note. I'll just, I'll just grow them out, make my life easier. But yeah, I hope everybody enjoys the finale, and it's been a cool first season. I can't believe it's already at the end already. It seems like it just flew by.
Well, we are glad that we're able to share it with you. We're glad that Janis had such a great role throughout the season, and hopefully we'll be able to see her in season 2, because everybody needs more Janis in their life, especially now that she's an ally, frenemy. I don't know, but I
want to see that episode come back. I want to see that episode with you and Caitlin drinking. Yep.
I want to see the spin-off movie about this. Yeah.
I know, that'd be fun. Yeah, well, great cast. They did such a great job. Ray is just such a, he's a great number one and just, a good guy. And I'm really happy that it's done so well and that people enjoy it. And awesome.
Well, thank you, Georgina, for spending time with us on the Quantum Leap podcast. It's been a blast.
Okay. I said I will thank you, which is a weird acknowledgement. I will thank you. Thank you. I'm going to end on a high note, okay?
Yes. Good going.
Sounds good.